Hey everyone, this is Dead Gamer. I'm going to do a little rundown for you all with the new Red Gobbo model, which came out from Games Workshop this year. Apparently this is a limited release, and they're saying that after this year he won't be available, so I picked up a few copies of him. And I just kind of wanted to show people a comparison of the new one, which is this guy right here. If you don't have the box, this is it right here. It's basically your standard single character or limited edition Games Workshop. I know some of the Primaris guys came in this, the store only, like birthday celebration. So it's that size box. And it's going to be a Christmas Red Gobbo. We'll just kind of do a little shot of that. If you're interested in the packaging itself, feel free and stop the video at any time. I just kind of want to show that off a little bit if you're curious about anything going on the package. So that's that. So this is the Red Gobbo. Previously I did a similar thing with the Amble Hulk from Blackstone Fortress, and people found it interesting and helpful that I do this little kind of measuring stick with the old model and the new model and a relation to the other models in that universe, so you can get an idea of what that looks like in scale if you're on the fence about purchasing the model. I do have to say again, and stress I guess, that this is a model that's supposedly limited edition, will only be available for this holiday season, and then will be off the market indefinitely. At least is what they're saying. So pick them up. I mean, he's like 30 something bucks. Maybe he's $30 US, 35. I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember. I picked him up with a bunch of other stuff. So he was actually the smaller part of the massive purchase I made, which was all the Necromunda Zone Mortalis stuff. So he was a drop in the hat in comparison to price-wise. So didn't really pay attention. So without further ado, those of you interested, what I've got here on this little lineup is, first and foremost, I put all the bases touching the front of this metal ruler, and everything's clipped in the back just to hold it there. This is a 25. This is a 30 or whatever. Is it 30 or 32 millimeter? The new Space Marine size base. This is 25 and a 25. So the model in question is going to be this one right here. The second in from the Gretchen. This is a standard Gretchen right there. So let me hold this here. I'm going to try to level out the ruler. And please pause the video so you can kind of get an idea. If I'm moving around a little bit, I'll try to hold it still. But best thing to do is pause it if you've got any questions. So this is how they all look. Also, my Red Gobbo, the original Gorka Morka one, he's missing his little... He just had a little wood staff that has a skull head on the end of it. And I do have a second Red Gobbo, but I couldn't find him. And this was one that I had 2 guns on, and the other gun broke off because I didn't pin it. So that's why he's doesn't have the staff. But I couldn't find the one that actually had the staff with the little skull on it. Or not staff, it's like a wand. So that's this guy right here. But that wand basically protrudes out a little more. There's a little skull right about here at the end of the Sharpie pen. So... But to give you an idea, perspective-wise, this is what we're looking at. You got your Gretchen here. You've got your Red Gobbo as he should come out of the box. Got him puttied on the base, and he's all puttied together because I don't want to build him yet. I haven't shaved all the mold lines and done all that. I just kind of wanted to slap them together so you guys can see him in comparison. Then you got the traditional Red Gobbo. One of the main differences, I'll kind of zoom in, or not zoom in, but bring him in, is the original Red Gobbo. He didn't have a hat. He had some little, same thing. He had the glasses. Does not have the beard. Obviously his gun has some, I don't know if you call that breathing holes or what, but I'm not a weapons guy, so I don't know exactly. I know it's to cool off the barrel, but it's very a la Melt-A-Gun flamer-esque, where the new gun, which is kind of hidden, I'll just go to that guy, is not so much. It's just got the small ones right there. So yeah, I mean, he's very, very similar in a lot of respects, but also very different. And the model over here, if you're asking, well, what the hell is that? This is my version of the plastic one to look like the original one. So what I'm basically doing is I took the Santa Claus hat off. If you look at the Santa Claus hat that kind of cruises out, let me turn them. There you go. See the Santa Claus hat? I shaved that off. So it actually looks like a straight up kind of like a Russian, I don't want to be like, say the wrong thing right now. But I want to say it's the communist hat, right? It's that traditional, like, when we think of like the Cold War, at least I do, because I'm a child of the 70s and the Cold War was a thing. That Cold War kind of hat where it was all fuzzy and they had the top. So it's very much, if you pretty much just chop that little Santa Claus thing off, you've straight up got the Russian Cold War hat. You got a star in the middle, but the star is actually kind of important because the star, I guess let me talk a little bit about the Gretchen Revolution. So in Gorka Morka, you've got, if you don't know the story of Gorka Morka, in short, what happened was basically orcs were cruising through space on a giant space hulk, which is how orcs traveled, or at least, or traveled back in the day. I don't know how they do now because I don't really keep up with orc lore, but orc lore back in the day, as a space hulk kind of formed by other ships crashing and other rocks crashing into this giant massive thing floating through space, orcs that were on planets would detect these giant things moving through their solar system, I guess, and mechs would create ways to transport the orcs up onto those ships via rockets or transporter kind of things, and they would essentially all mass up on these giant space hulks, and these space hulks would float through space for an undetermined amount of time, and then they would crash on a planet and the orcs would have a giant wall. And well, over time actually they would turn the space hulk into an actual functioning ship, somewhat, as much as an orc could make something functional. And they would drive these ships and crash them into planets and do their wah. Well, this particular space hulk kind of got sucked into the atmosphere of Gorka Morka, this planet, or they called the planet Gorka Morka, the orcs did. It actually had its own name. I don't remember what it was at the moment, but ship comes down, crashes into planet, kills most of the population of orcs on this ship, ends up just going boom, 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 skidding across the surface of the planet, and resides in this one section. Excuse me. God, now I'm going into Gorka Morka lore. That's not what this video was about, but long story short, the Gretchen in Gorka Morka, which is the town that was created, decide to revolt against the orcs. Mainly because the orcs had this idea that once they get their new ship ready so they can shoot back up off this planet, because they're basically stranded on this desolate wasteland, like a desert planet, and their whole goal was to get enough stuff from that crash that's out in the desert back to Mech Town so the Mech Boys could create another ship that they can leave the planet and start their war again. Well, they had this process of basically creating a thing called tags. And if you had a tag, it was essentially your ticket to get on the ship to leave the planet when the war was going to start again. Well, grots were exempt from getting tags. Like, they just were like, nope, no grots are getting tags. Tags are only going to orcs and mech boys and knobs. So the grots decided this was unfair, and they had this revolution. And they got in this crazy fight with the orcs. A bunch of them ended up just becoming slaves to the orcs again. But the remaining chunk of this grot revolution decided to leave Mechtown and head towards what they call the skid, which is where that ship comes down and skid across the planet and all the parts flew across the desert. Well, there was an initial impact, and that was sort of another, not a town, I don't want to say that because it wasn't, but that was where they were marching to. Bunch of Gretchen died going to this area, and they ended up colonizing it, and they started the Grot Revolutionary Movement or Committee, and they appointed, now the orcs in Mechtown always thought Red Gobbo was a particular figure, like this shady person who sort of conducted these strike attacks and these raids and things like that. But what the Red Gobbo truly represents is a Gretchen that is appointed that position through the Gretchen Revolutionary Committee to be the Red Gobbo. So over time, Red Gobbo changes who it actually is. It's not always this one particular, like Marneus Calgar, right? He's the Space Marine. If you don't know, Marneus Calgar is the Ultramarine Space Marine dude. He doesn't change. He's who he is. But Red Gobbo is definitely somebody new on a more regular basis, which is a kind of cool story. And that's a little bit long of a tangent, I guess, but I guess if you're watching this video still, hopefully you find it interesting that I know these things. And this is all back in the Gorka Morka days, and there's more information about the Gretchen Revolution and all that stuff, but or now they call them grots. But anyway, so going back, this guy right here is my version of this guy right here, but I want to kind of, bring him up to date because he's a cool plastic model, and I didn't want to put him on the big old chunk of stuff because I want to use him in the game. My chunk of stuff, actually, so here's your 32mm base he came with, which again you can see right there. I thought, and I found out, which is kind of neat, that you put it on a 40mm base, and that chest that he's standing on right here, see that little latch? Right there. So it's opened. Like, you can open that chest, and there's a bunch of little, well, they're Christmas ornaments, but who's to say they're not like grenades, right? And why has that got to be snow? Why can't it be sand? So you got some cool little round grenades, and then on the back, you've got this cool bag of standard grenades. And this box lid actually is modeled so you can close it, which is the only way he could stand on there. You can see it right here again. Or you can open it. Now, mind you, I'm going to take this little blade right here. I did cut this piece off right here. And if you look at it, I folded it up. So I kind of cut into the plastic right there to set it like a latch. But you could basically make it like an open box. So this is a cool, really neat piece if you want to mount it on. I got it blue tacked on or white tacked. But you got a sack of grenades, and you got two boxes. One of them's got ornaments, but who's to say, again, you can't paint them. And there's another little free range ornament right there. Who's to say you can't paint that as a different type of grenade? This is your standard like Imperial Guard / Space Marine sort of grenades. So it's kind of neat. I totally dug the fact that they did that with this little base. I thought that was pretty cool. And, you know, I am going to be painting this one up and modeling him to be the one he's supposed to be. But I definitely wanted my own version, which is going to be this guy. And all I really did with him was I chopped off his little star and his little Christmas stuff. I'm going to end up putting a skull up there. Got to find a cool looking skull. And I'm not yet set on... Oh, so another thing about the Grot Revolution is their symbol is a red star. So they use a red star, which is why I don't feel it's necessary to shave off the Christmas stars on this guy, because his hat right here's got a star, and he also has a really cool star badge, which is right up here on his fur coat. And oh, does he have one on his... Yeah, he's got one on his belt too. So he got 3 stars on him. And in my opinion, because the red star, is sort of a Grot Revolution thing, it's not necessary to shave those off the models. Pretty much you just cut the Christmas crap off of the staff, which is all that stuff right there. And oh, I also took his beard off. That was another thing. And that shaved off really easy, especially along, he had like a little string. You look on the side of his face. I gotta try to bring this in there. See that tiny faint string right there? That's behind his eye glass, a little bit above his mouth. So you got that little string. You can see it right there. It's sort of shining right behind where his mouth stops. So that's like it's totally a fake beard, and they actually modeled on the string that holds the beard on. And you can just shave that off. That came off really easily. So that was cool. So the beard can come off. You got these cool little group of bullets behind his face. You can see them right there. 1, 2, 3 bullets. And yeah, I mean, his coat isn't like the smooth leather coat on the inside, but it is. Let me go to the back. It is your standard leather coat. Oh, another piece that I left off because I just haven't had a chance to put it on is this guy right here. See that weird little kind of indent? Well, what that is another pocket, and that pocket has a piece of dynamite sticking out of it, which is pretty neat. And that's right here. Just haven't put it on him yet, but get that little piece of dynamite, pocket dynamite. So that goes on him. Just haven't done it yet. And yeah, so he's got a leather coat, which is kind of neat. His gun's a little different, which I'm okay with. He's got the cool hood. The other thing about it, I guess now this is more where I talk about my stuff as opposed to the actual model. So if you're still listening, you guys are rad. If you're not, you're still cool, but you're not rad. Yeah, I mean, what's wrong with having a fur coat on the inside instead of just a straight leather coat? So the fur doesn't bother me. One thing that does bother me, if you look at the original Red Gobbo, you kind of see like where his head is. Like his leather jacket, his little collar piece right here, comes above his head. Like, let me straighten him out. You see how it's sort of above his head? The new model, his head is prominently above the leather or that collar. And if you look, the height of these two models is considerably taller, right? So I've got the height of his head is about here, which comes up to about his mouth, right? So a thought, and I didn't really glue these on. Well, this guy I didn't at all. He's blue tacked. So, oh shit. Let me try to do this without screwing everything up. Yeah. Okay, cool, I did it. So, little Christmas head, little Christmas dude. So if I bring the head lower, it actually shortens the model. Like, it literally, I don't think you're going to notice. And I think it'll bring, like, look how much taller he is. But if you bring his head down to, let's say, here, right? Drop it down. You get that sense of feeling that he's more stout and his coat's bigger. And I'm probably going to try something like that. But yeah, I mean, that's it. Oh, one more thing should also mention. Sorry, I I keep coming up with things in my head. I'm always trying to remember, like, what are people going to ask me after I make this video? And then I'm going to tell myself, damn it, I should have covered that too, but I didn't. So another thing too that I do with, particularly with me and my models, is because when I put, when I do the basing material, I find that a lot of times the sand, I'll use this base as an example. So if you glue the feet directly onto the base and then you put your sand on, right? The sand kind of comes up, and a lot of times it covers like the feet, the detail, the hooves of doom. Good YouTube channel. The claws, things like that. So what I end up doing is I with my figure, and it's super easy. You just take the sprue, right? Oh, where's the sprue? It's over here. You take the sprue and you cut just a small section of it off. Like you just go from here to there, like a tiny little bit. And you do 2 chops, and then you end up having these little stilts kind of thing. And the stilts, you glue those under the feet. And then when you glue him down, you see how that guy's sitting on a little bit of a raised level? Well, what that allows is when you stick the glue down and you put the rocks and sand down, they literally come right up to the base of the feet. And I don't know why Games Workshop doesn't, like, on their sprues make these little tabs, but this Gretchen right here is a perfect example. Like, I didn't cover his feet with sand at all, and when I glued him down, it looks like his feet are standing on the dirt, right? And he's raised above. So it's just really helpful if you're having problems basing your models, and that's when you're putting the glue on, it's getting over the cusp of that detail, because I want to see all that stuff, right? So it's a super, super handy. And yeah, it's 2 more things you have to glue on, but if you're like gluing on grenades and, you know, hair stuff and all the crazy shit you have to glue onto your models, it's 1 extra step. I mean, it truly, genuinely is. And there are a few situations and a few rare cases where the actual little piece from the mold to the foot, to me, is thick enough where I can chop it a little lower, and then it's essentially part of the model. And that's the win, right? Because that's like you literally have it. But normally that's on one or the other side of the model, and then his balance is off. So I try to just do these little side pieces and glue them in the center, because then it's centered with the support of that plastic. But that's personal preference, you know. But that's what I did here. So he is a little taller than that guy right there, because that guy I did not glue. Mind you, I put him on that base probably in 1996. So I didn't know now what I know then, or know then what I knew now. Perfect example though, I will go back, because see how this guy's coat is literally flush with the ground? Well, you put sand there and that sand comes up, you're going to lose that little tiny section of detail around his toes. So you got to elevate those guys. And these old metal models are easier to do because you just don't glue them all the way down so they sit flush. You keep them up a little bit, so they have that tab that runs between their 2 legs. Just keep them a little bit higher than they're supposed to be, and put glue around that, and then do the sand and the base, and they're just right on the earth, which is awesome. That was long-winded. I need a quick drink. Sorry. Oh my gosh. Okay. Holy mackerel, it's 25 minutes. So, one more thing before I go, and it's about the actual model itself, and which is why I was disappointed with the way he came out. You get the model in the box, and on the inside it looks like this. This is what the plastic thing that you get them in looks like. Well, the sprue in this pretty much was the model you saw. And when I saw this, I was like, okay, it would have been really cool if they made this a little bigger and they added, basically, they didn't do his hand perma-fixed, like this piece right here. They didn't do that permanent. They did two different hand options. They did the regular Gorka Morka, like wandy staff skull thing, and they did the Christmas thing, and they also did a second head option. Because with those two things, an additional head and additional staff, this model literally needed 0 converting right here to make him the standard Red Gobbo. And I think that was a missed opportunity, and that's unfortunate. But and I mean, you could still put him on the crate. Like, there's nothing about that crate aside from, yeah, that ball looks semi like a ornament, but if you don't paint it like an ornament, it doesn't look like an ornament. But I mean, you could have literally left him on the crate, or done like the Go Trek model. I don't know if you guys bought that model, but let me get him. This one, where he came, where you could stick him on his regular base, or you could put him on his decorative base. It doesn't show it here. Oh yeah, it does. So there he's on his crazy ornate. See all the dead Skaven? Right? And that's like a bigger base. And then they came on like a game size base without the dead Skaven. This was a beautiful, beautiful concept idea, executed extremely well. That piece of rock he's standing on literally sits right on top of the Skaven. And if you don't want to do that, then he's playable in the game, no problem. I think they missed that opportunity, and it's upsetting. Only because it would have been nice, you know, and I think they would have grabbed more people, you know, because some people aren't going to buy the Christmas version of a goblin, right? But other people are like, I want Red Gobbo. And I think that that would have been an awesome, you could have done, you know, without the little Russian hat, well, Santa Claus hat that I made a Russian hat, could have done a standard, just regular goblin face, and you could have done a different staff, and you would have been in like Flynn. But it is what it is, and it's not, to me personally, I enjoy cutting shit up, and I like doing models like this, and you know, having these little challenges. To me, it's fun. It's not a big deal, but I also like to see things like that, because I think that, you know, I mean, I'm sure a million people are going to do the regular. They'll probably do them without the hat, because it's easier just to throw a regular Gretchen head on there and make them look like Red Gobbo. Because Red Gobbo is really, genuinely, honestly, any goblin. He's just a goblin that's been appointed that position. So, I don't know. That's it. My opinion, my perspective. I hope you found this video helpful. Sorry it was a little long. I didn't realize I was talking for 29 minutes now, which is crazy. But I am having a blast with this model. I'm kind of pissed off, because I'd love more of these. These little 40 mil, you know, grenade piles would be fun little objectives. And I've got a few of these models, but I want to keep one, you know, all natural, and the other one's going to be the converted version for gaming. But and I'll just throw them in with whatever. But this is super cool. I totally dug this, and it's all it takes is just a little bit of cutting to get that little latch sitting forward instead of backwards, and you're golden. So that's it for the Red Gobbo. I appreciate you guys watching, and yeah, I'm having fun doing these videos. I haven't done them in a while, and I've done 3 now this weekend, and I've been getting some nice feedback and response and views, which is tripping me out, and which is pretty awesome. So I appreciate you guys. Comment. I will totally hit you up. And you know, those of you that are new to the channel, sounds so weird saying that, because it's like I'm not trying to make this into anything. I'm just having fun doing these videos. But those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. Enjoy my backlog of drinking and talking about Warhammer. I'm gonna take another sip real quick. Oh, it's good. I had to go to bed. I gotta be up in like 7 hours, so that's it. I'm gonna call that quits. Thanks, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you later.